There you go.
Okay, now we're recording.
You know, the last time, yeah, oh shit, it did it again. That thing where it looks like it had been recording for like 4 or 5 seconds and then stopped, it went back to 0 and then started again. Fucking weird.
Well, it seems like it's working now.
Yeah, no, like I said, did the exact same thing in the last episode and it worked out fine.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. I'm Corey, and with me is Dylan and John. And when you add the three of us together, you get the Smark Avengers, a name that we've never explained, and I don't think we ever will.
No.
So, last week on the show, we killed the Flash, and it mainly was just a conversation about how many weird fucking powers the Flash had.
Yeah.
And I think that was the closest to like being burnt out I've been in some time.
Yeah. That wasn't fun.
Yeah, you didn't even have to write any of the. You didn't have to come up with the ways to kill him. You just had to read off the ways that he can survive.
Yeah.
You know, and we were like,
Well-
how do we kill this unkillable beast? You know,
This man who can vibrate his eyes and see other rays of light, or make his brain go back into the past and remember things that he was forced to forget.
yeah, like it felt like before we even had a chance to present our cases, every single step of the way, somebody who wrote for the Flash had figured out what we were going to write in order to kill him, and was like, no, that's not going to work. You know, like every single bit, every idea that we had, they're like, oh, actually, I think you'll find that in issue 71, they already established that you can't shoot him in the head. Like, well, that's not fair, you know. I should be able to shoot him in the head if I want to.
If you want, yeah, I mean, this is America. Well, for me, it's America. For
Yeah.
you guys, it's something else.
But if I was in America, I should have the right to be able to shoot the Flash in the head. It's in the Constitution, I assume. It's probably near the back somewhere. Anyway,
Hey, what's going on? I heard something insane about Kate Middleton and some weird stuff going on over there.
Oh my
News
God.
about like the royal family when it comes over here, I feels like it's like whenever you play telephone as a kid and somebody says like, "Hey, we're having lunch at 12," and it gets to the last person and it turned into like, "Hey, bananas aren't a fruit," you know?
yeah, hey, we're gonna kill the Flash at 12. And you're like, okay, well, I guess
Yeah.
you can't do it. It's impossible.
So, because the last episode was so taxing mentally on us, which was so surprising to me, the Aquaman episode was so fun and goofy because of how weird his powers got, and then it just got oppressive as it went on.
Yeah, it just kept going. We looked at the
Mm.
time and we're like, we're already all the way through the episode and we haven't finished talking about what his powers are yet.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. It was like 45 minutes had passed into the recording, and I was like, we're still on the second one, and there's 2 more to go. Holy hell!
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
a-
Anyway, though. Because of that, we're going to be more of a, laid back atmosphere on this one. We've talked about characters and we've talked about storylines and we even watched a couple episodes of Japanese Spider-Man, but it feels like we've not really talked about what we're currently reading in comics. And that's not to say like I feel like of all of the podcasts I've seen about comics, we're definitely not negative. I feel like we're not negative people.
I mean, we are just after relentlessly making fun of the Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I feel like it's not done in the same kind of ilk as people who like rage over stuff. Like we're picking fun at things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd
yeah.
agree with that.
So yeah, because we're kind of usually taking the piss out of stuff, whether talking about like, weird super powers or bad villains or storylines that don't make any sense. I thought it'd be fun to like, hey, here's some stuff that we're actually reading at the moment. So yeah, I guess that's the thing. I know I get a weekly pull. So I'm constantly getting something to read. I don't know if you guys have polls over there.
No.
No. Well, like I've said before on the show, I tend to read the collected editions, the graphic novels, the like the big collections whenever they get released. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Dylan, what about you?
Oh, I don't know how to read.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to learn, but it just seems like a lot of effort, you know?
Too many words.
That's exactly the problem. If you're trying to learn how to read, there's too many words to learn how to read. So if I just don't learn how to read any of them, blissful ignorance all the way through. You
They
know,
do say ignorance is bliss, so I guess that
They
works out
do.
for you.
I don't know if that's entirely true, but
I don't know. Do you
I
find
don't
you do you feel you're a happy-go-lucky person?
I don't know. No?
I don't know, man. When I've been making the little clips to put up on TikTok to kind of help just like show examples of what this show is. Like 9 times out of 10, they have been you cracking at something. Like I just posted the whole Armless Tiger Man bit
Yeah.
not too long ago.
That I forgot about that bit, but I also stand by my determination to bring Armless Tiger Man closer to the public's perception. I'm just gonna talk about Armless Tiger Man for a long time.
Well, I was going to talk about Armless Tiger Man a little bit too, actually.
Is he back?
Kind
Is he
of.
in your house?
No.
Thank God for that.
So I was looking so when I made that TikTok, I was looking for panels of the comic so that people who would like watch the clip would have like an illustration of what we were looking at. And so not only did I find like panels of like his origin where he got his arms ripped off by a machine and that's why he hates machines, but fucking machines, man. he I found out that Greg Pak actually had brought Armless Tiger Man back a few years ago and put him into his Hercules run. Like I saw panels of like modern day Armless Tiger Man in Africa, like biting people's throats and letting them bleed out, looking the exact fucking same that he did in those panels that we showed.
I really like the idea that he was like, right, I have a costume that fits. It's got no arms. This is perfect. I can't afford to get a new costume. I just because everybody else since then, every other person has like adapted or made a new costume or had a new look or whatever. Armless Tiger Man is like, nope, this looks great on me.
He can't
You
take it
know.
off. He doesn't have any arms.
Can't argue with the facts. Well, how did he get it on?
You know what? In those panels that I found, there's a panel of him like walking with this dude and he like bites the guy's throat and then stomps him to death. And he's wearing a trench coat, shoes, and a hat. How did he tie the shoes?
I like the idea that he was like, "Excuse me, can you help me tie my shoes? I don't have any arms." To just somebody, and the guy's like, "Of course, I will help you tie your shoes, you poor armless man." And then he does, and then Armless Tiger Man kills him.
Yeah.
He's like, "You showed weakness, you know. Fuck you."
That guy probably used machines.
Yeah. Do you have a computer? Fuck you. You know. Dude, can we? All right, can we make a pitch to Marvel where we get to write Armless Tiger Man, bring him back, and just have him just be like a total like fucking like he hates everything. Like any machines, anything mechanical, and like he sees people using their phones, and he's like, what the fuck is this? And
He just starts
mental.
karate kicking phones out of people's hands.
Yeah, and then like he comes over to America one day, he's like, what the fuck is going on? Look at all this shit, you know. And just go spare like this is a perfect storyline, especially given like, you know, these days you always get these guys just like the old generation versus the new generation. We're like, back in my day, we didn't have phones, you know, all that shit. Those people who love complaining about stuff, like this is the perfect storyline for them. They are the Armless Tiger Man of today, you know. It would work perfectly. I assume it will work perfectly. Clip this bit and send it to Marvel. Can we tweet this to
Okay.
Marvel?
Was it their
Marvel.
editor-in-chief, CB Cebulski?
I don't know who it is. Whatever your name is, tell me how to spell your name correctly so I can write it on a check.
Mhm.
Because obviously the only way to get a job at Marvel is to bribe somebody. But listen, man, it'd be a really good story. Clearly, the three of us are very good at writing. We have never shown our ability to write that often on the show, but we're all very good writers. Take our word for it. We could write an Armless Tiger Man story. I could do the artwork.
There you go.
Maybe get
You
somebody
have
else
you
to do
have
the artwork.
shown that you can draw Armless Tiger Man. He is in the thumbnail for that episode on Weird Superpowers.
Yeah, and he looked fine.
Yeah, he looked great.
Yeah. So maybe we should get somebody else to do the artwork, but I think it would work. Wouldn't it be a fun story to write?
I
Yeah,
think
there's
so.
potential there.
Well, and what gets me is like you have Marvel and their like sliding timescale thing, where like we don't really talk about like Magneto being alive during World War II anymore. It seems, but Gustav Hertz got his arms ripped off by a machine as a teenager or a young man working in a machine shop in Germany in like the 1930s and 40s, and that kind of explains like machines like that hadn't really been around super long. So I like to just think that like in the sliding time scale of Marvel, that happened, but it was like present day. And like he was totally fine with machines beforehand. And that also like he feels betrayed by machines now.
Shouldn't
Yeah,
have said beforehand. That brings back bad memories.
Yeah.
That's what we had before the hands.
What now? The machine, it looked like it had like blades on it, like as a propeller. But if you had to write Armless Tiger Man losing his arms to a machine, what machine would you pick?
Oh, something that like a really like trivial, completely unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like something that like this it very easily could have been avoided. You
I
know,
was gonna say a lawnmower.
Oh shit!
a lawnmower making machine. The machine that puts the blades into the lawnmower.
Right, hold on one second, guys. I'll be right back.
It's Armless Tiger Man knocking at the door of his feet. Like, I heard you guys talking about me. He probably says it in an accent though, because he's from where's he from? Germany?
Yeah, but he didn't look particularly German.
No.
Pretty sure, didn't he look Asian?
He did. Yeah, that's there's so many mysteries about Armless Tiger Man. We could solve these mysteries. We could write them all down. We could make up our own history for Armless Tiger Man.
What if we just did this off the books? Like, didn't go to Marvel at all and just wrote our own Armless Tiger Man story, published our own comic, and as I'm sure they wouldn't mind.
Do you think they've trademarked Armless Tiger Man?
Nah,
They probably have.
What
They're owned by
if that's
Disney
like,
now. They trademark everything. They've
what
like
if that's
rewritten
the
copyright laws in America so many times.
that might be the one that they haven't like they probably forgot. Like they're like nobody's gonna give a shit about Armless Tiger Man, and then we come along and make the greatest selling comic book of the 21st century.
Mm.
And they're like, fuck, why didn't we think about Armless Tiger Man? That's the problem, man. People aren't thinking about him. He's so
All right.
he's just a classic
read
character
you-
all around.
Can I read you some of the modern Gustav Hertz lore? This is in the Marvel database. This is like their version of Wikipedia. Shortly thereafter, Hertz was either freed or escaped from prison and returned to the Nazi cause. It also seems that during his time he developed a taste for human flesh, becoming a cannibal and using his canine-like teeth to tear flesh from the bone. He was next recruited into a special superhuman task force assembled by the Red Skull and sent to Africa to infiltrate Wakanda in order to secure a supply of vibranium for the Nazi cause. During the assault on the Wakandan capital, Hertz assaulted the Black Panther's wife and 2 sons, threatening to kill T'Chaka. At this time, he was shot in the middle of his forehead by howling commando Gabe Jones, killing him instantly. Hertz's soul ended up in Hades, where in modern times he was a member of Pluto's jury of the undead that were standing trial against Zeus. When Hercules attempted to attack the jury, Tiger Man was among its members who overpowered the demigod. Later, when Pluto reneged on a promise to release those trapped in Hades, Armless Tiger Man attacked Pluto but was soundly defeated. At some point, he was able to leave Hades and attended the alley behind a closed-down laundromat Comic-Con as an exhibitor.
So he went from Hades to Comic-Con.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's where our starting point is. We have to start with Armless Tiger Man at the Comic-Con that he works at the laundromat.
What would he do? Why would he be at Comic-Con?
Maybe he wants to, get the
Maybe.
special screenings of the Phase 5 films.
What if it was a printing press that cut his arm off?
Oh.
The comic printing press. And now he just doesn't hit machines, but he hits comics as well.
His arms are already gone, though. Did they just remove more of what was left of them?
No, but I mean, like, if we were
doing the reboot?
Yeah. If we were making a modern, we could say the machine he lost his arms to was a comics printing press thing. Something to do with, I don't know how comics are made, but that's how he loses his arm. So then he goes to Comic-Con not to meet other people, but to kill them, because it also gave him brain damage, I guess. I don't know.
People are like, that's a sweet Armless Tiger Man costume, and he'd be like, oh, thanks, and then he'd kick them really hard and break their sternum.
Yeah.
Probably eat them afterwards.
Yeah, he would eat them.
Which is good, because traditionally Comic-Cons and stuff, it's like really hard to find food at those things, because sometimes the conventions will have little cafeterias, but considering there's thousands of people there, maybe being a cannibal at Comic-Con is like the best course of action.
It's the best place to meet people that you want to eat.
Yeah.
They're all in one room. It's perfect. They're easy targets. They're probably not well versed in hand-to-hand combat, which is perfect for Armless Tiger Man, because he's not doing arm combat either.
A lot of them might be in costume, though. You might have to struggle to get them out of the costume to eat them if you've got no arms.
But he must.
What if he was sent to the Comic-Con because Captain America was making a special appearance there, but there were so many people cosplaying as Captain America, he was just killing all of them that he could find, and it turned into a murder mystery. Like, who's killing all these Captain Americas?
Yeah, he's like, I better eat them all just to make sure. I like the idea of it being like a murder mystery. Like, who is the one killing all these Captain Americas? Is it that crazy guy with no arms, with blood all over his face, who keeps karate kicking people and then eating them? Maybe. We need to do some more research.
Or was it the butler?
Yeah.
It's always the butler.
Yeah, they pulled his Scooby-Doo face off him, and it's like, it's old man Withers who works at the construction site.
He was like, no, I was just here cosplaying as Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, he's like, what? It's clearly the fucking armless guy.
How could he kill someone? He has no arms.
But that time he's long gone.
Oh yeah, he got away.
He gets away in his plane that he flies with his feet.
Yep.
We have this
thing.
Oh, but
it's a machine. He hates machines.
It's a pedal plane. Okay.
Well, now that we've spent 15 minutes, that was our Armless Tiger Man update. So, because Armless Tiger Man is a comic that we've not written yet, let's get back to what we are writing, or what we are reading. John, what are you currently reading?
Well, I just last week finished reading the latest Daredevil and Elektra run.
Oh yeah.
The Red Fist saga, and it was all right. It was it felt like they were trying to go pretty big in scope with what they wanted to do, but the series might have been cut short because a lot of it just didn't really go anywhere, and the big conclusion felt like it was sort of rushed. Like, this was a series which featured the president of the United States getting assassinated, which made like zero ripples in the rest of the Marvel universe.
Well, and that brings up a question as well. Like traditionally, I always thought that Marvel went with who the real life president was. So are you saying that the Marvel cinematic, not the Marvel cinematic, the Marvel comic universe, Joe Biden's been assassinated?
I guess so, but
No.
it turned out it wasn't the real president. It was a hand imposter, because there was like lots of hand imposters all over the world, like getting into trouble or something, and that was part of the reason why Daredevil and Elektra formed their new version of the Fist to try and stop them.
So it was kind of like a street level version of Secret Invasion.
Well, it wasn't even street level. It was like Daredevil and Elektra had, in the previous series, stolen a shit ton of money from like some bad guys, the Stromwinds, something like that, and then basically bought an island and recruited loads of mercenaries and like random bad guys to populate their little Fist army, and then they went around sort of trying to stop the hand and bring them down.
Wait. They were going around finding all these other, you guys already know where this is going. They went around trying to find other like supervillains to join their mercenary team of criminals to fight the Hand.
Yeah, they busted some villains from prison.
I was slow to this, and I just now realize what you're doing.
Oh, what's he saying?
And they didn't pick the greatest mercenary of all time.
Oh, dear.
He doesn't even have hands. He gets really annoyed at the Hand for calling themselves a Hand. He's like, "How could you do this?"
They were looking for him, but they didn't check Comic-Con, did they?
They go to Comic-Con. Which Comic-Con is he at?
He's working all of them. He's doing the circuit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got to make that t-shirt money.
Oh, he took over for Virgil now that he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they missed the
comic book superstar, Armless Tiger Man.
That's just saying that they kind of missed a trick there. But who wrote that?
It's a good question. I think it might be, it might be his last run with Daredevil. I can't remember now.
He's having some mixed success on Batman currently as well. Some people I've been talking to about it, not been super crazy about what he's doing. You know how like the whole thing with Batman is he has like a contingency plan for everybody?
Yeah.
So Batman has a contingency plan for Batman. Basically, he was taught by Henry Ducard to create this personality for himself to help like make him immune to like brainwashing attempts. And it was the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, who it was like a reference that Grant Morrison made to like a Silver Age story where Batman went to another planet and met the Batman on that planet, and that planet was called Zur-En-Arrh. So he's the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. So anyway, Grant Morrison, being the wonderful human being that they are and loving to keep anything and everything in continuity, Grant decided that Batman of Zur-En-Arrh was like a personality that Batman could flip into. So like Zdarsky took that and basically Batman surrendered himself to Zur and had Zur create the contingency plan for him in case like he ever went rogue. And all of this is like due to the Penguin faking his death. So Penguin faked his death, and it was reported in the news that Batman killed the Penguin, and that activated the contingency plan, which was this robot that Zur built called Failsafe that was like designed to think and act exactly as Batman would. And for like a couple of issues, it was just basically Batman getting his ass whooped by this robot. And some stuff happened with the robot, and Batman got sent to like another parallel Earth. And there he got his hand cut off, and it was replaced with a robot hand. So now Batman has a robot hand, but it's only in the Batman comic. Like, it's not been referenced anywhere else that Batman appears. And now Zur has put his personality inside of the robot because he convinced Batman that, like, he's the perfect Batman, and that the only way to engage in the war on crime is for him to be in control all the time. So, like, Zur is in the failsafe body and is running Gotham, and Batman has been put in this, like, abandoned prison along with, like, Joker and some other, like, low-level villains. And the Zdarsky run's not been getting the most rave reviews. So that's my telling you that I'm currently reading Batman.
Well, I've just started reading this week Red Goblin, the series about Normie Osborn like being given the well, not
Rascal
a specific
symbiote.
Yeah, which is a terrible name, but
Rascal.
yeah. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's a really weird one because, like, I swear Normie in continuity should be what, like 5-6 years old at the absolute most.
I
But
think he's like 9 or 10 in that
it,
run. I read, like, I got onto the Red Goblin series towards the end of it. So I read, like, the last, like, 4 or 5 issues of it. So I actually do know a bit about what you're saying. But yeah, Normie is supposed to, I think they say he's like 9 or 10.
which I don't know, feels way too old considering.
Well, he has a little brother now too, right?
Yeah, Stanley, who again was a baby, like 10 years ago in terms of when it was released. But that's, I don't know how much time that would have been in the actual, like, sliding scale that you were talking about earlier. Like, I don't know how much that equates, but he's basically like a toddler. Like, he's more the sort of age that I would have thought Normie would have been at this point. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it kind of puts me off as well because a lot of it is sort of Normie doing narration, like the whole, like, yellow boxes kind of thing where he's talking to us, the reader, but he just sounds like an adult.
Yeah.
And it's really off-putting because it doesn't sound anything like a kid should sound like.
So that brings up an interesting topic for me, because I kind of had that same feeling. Like, writing a series where the main character is a child has to be really jarring and kind of difficult, because, like, I feel that I can't imagine doing that, like, writing as a child convincingly, because you run into that problem where Normie's supposed to be 9 or 10, but the art makes him look like he's, like, maybe 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And he speaks like an adult. And I remember in Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly's Batman and Robin, Damian's 10, but Damian is also, like, was trained from birth to be an assassin and is incredibly cold and mature for his age. So it kind of makes sense why Damian talks the way he does, and he's supposed to be jarring.
Right.
So Normie's also kind of jarring because, like, and I don't know, like, how far you've gotten into it, but it's not a secret that Normie's kind of fucked because of who his family is.
Right.
You know,
I feel
his
like we can give
father's,
him a pass for that, right?
yeah, he's like, he's borderline psychotic, and that's part of his relationship with Rascal, because Rascal's kind of an innocent symbiote.
Yeah, I guess.
Talks kind of like a child too.
Yeah.
So you have this weird series where the main characters are these two children. I kind of dug it, though, I'll be honest with you. So, I mean, I'm curious when you finish it what you think, but I kind of did dig the Red Goblin run. I thought it was weird.
I mean, shit like that though. Like, I haven't read too much of this new stuff, but you have the symbiote that you're like, oh, it's like a little kid, it's like a little, benevolent symbiote, and I'm like, it's not really what symbiote's supposed to be, dude. You know what I mean? It's really not what originally what they were supposed to be. I find a lot of this symbiote stuff for like, I don't know, maybe the last like 5 or 10 years to just be like not my cup of tea at all.
So you
You
didn't
know?
like the Null storyline with the symbiote like war thing, or
No, I
in
didn't like
Guardians of the
any.
Galaxy where they went to the symbiote home planet?
I didn't read that. But I didn't like Absolute Carnage. Was it Absolute Carnage?
Yeah, I think that's the name
Where
of
yeah,
that
they
series.
brought all the symbiotes together and
Mm.
he had all their codexes or whatever, and you're like, what is this jibber jabber? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it got really like, and like I think that like the idea of Null is kind of good. Like, there's good stuff there, but then it got like really strange like super quickly. Like then Venom became a dragon or whatever, you know, and I'm like, what are we doing? This is like symbiote bad, right? Let's do that.
Yeah.
What is all this? It got really confusing.
I don't
So
think
I
you
haven't
have to.
really, huh?
To kind of go into what you're saying, like it feels like sometimes some writers feel like I got to make my mark on the character, and it's like I don't think
Yeah.
people are wanting that though.
Right. I feel like that too. Like I feel like a lot of comic stuff these days, instead of just writing good stories, they're like, I gotta make a epic spectacular. And I'm like, just write a good story people want to read. You know what I mean? If I
I think,
may draw
yeah.
analogs between comics and wrestling to tie a very thin bow on our podcast name. You know, some people who are wrestlers these days think you got to go out and do everything. Got to make it big. Got to make it spectacular. Got to jump through glass for no reason to make this the most memorable match in the world. And you're like, right, that's true. That's kind of true. But also, people will remember your match way more if it's just a good fucking match. If it makes sense. If it's sold right. If it's built up right. They'll remember it if it's good and you're good at what you do. You don't have to literally kill yourself to make it a spectacular. You can just be good at your job. And I feel like that's the way I felt about a lot of comic stuff these days. Is that it's all like everything is so big and so like earth shattering that you're like, well, now what are you gonna do? Like to again to kind of talk about how the new X-Men run that's happening. They've come off the Krakoa era and all this stuff, and now it seems like they're trying the new different teams. And we were kind of like, well, it's almost like a step backwards or whatever, where it seems a little bit more like low key or whatever. But what else? What the fuck else could they have done? They went
Well,
so hard and so fucking mental in the Krakoa
yeah.
thing in like 4 years, and then they were like, reset it, do it again. Like we have to start all over. They kind of
Well,
have to bring it back, you know?
yeah. So I mean, I think that's kind of the thing we're talking about. Writers who feel like they need to make their epics. I do think Hickman is the one of the few that you let him do that though.
Yeah.
Like Hickman is good at what they do, and a lot of what Hickman does is like world building. I can't think of another writer who goes as far in world building as he does. He invented a fucking language for the Krakoa era X-Men, and the fact that it is a working language, that they write stuff in that language that you have to fucking decode if you want to understand it. Like it's insane the level of detail that he puts in stuff. But I also think that like he wanted to tell his story and ended the way he did, but the Krakoa stuff did so well for Marvel, they didn't want him to do it. So that led to him leaving those books. And like they're bringing him in now to tie it up, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't know. I didn't know if if he still had anything to do with it, to be honest.
So I mean, he is running. So one of the books I am reading currently is his book Gods, which is sort of like him creating a pocket in like the magic side of Marvel that's outside of like Doctor Strange and Loki and Doctor Doom and stuff. And it's been utterly fascinating for that same reason. It's everything Hickman does is fascinating. He's invented these new characters that are super interesting and super not unlike anything else in Marvel. They've created these organizations. He ties it into what's going on in Marvel, but it's not entirely dependent on it. It's what he does. But I can absolutely see why the second he left the Krakoa X-Men and he let these other writers take in, it felt like a step backwards. And why they're going to like, all right, it's gotten out of control now. We gotta We got to reel it back in and go back to basics. I'm not opposed to going back to basics on stuff. I'm very one of those few people in comics who seems to be that case. The word art gets thrown around really liberally anymore, and I think that can be a problem. And I think there's a place and a time for art in comic books. I don't think it's the big two, though. Like, I think if you want to tell like your big opus and art and show how creative you are, don't do it for Marvel or DC, because you're not going to get to keep the rights to it. You're not going to make any money off of it. You basically are contributing your work for free, and then Disney gets to profit it when they decide they want to make a movie.
Mhm.
And if you're lucky, they'll put your name in the credits. You know, like you know, like that's kind of that. But you know, to kind of go back to what you were saying in the new X-Men, going back to basics, I'm fine with that. I'm curious how they're going to approach it, because like, for those who do not know what we're talking about when we talk about the Krakoa era of the X-Men, basically in the span of 4 years, the X-Men have established their own country. They have terraformed Mars and have their own planet for all intents and purposes. They have figured out how to bring people back from the dead. So all of the hundreds of X-Men characters that have been killed over the years are all just back now. And if they get killed, they get resurrected again, no problem. And, you know, it's how do you go back from that? You know, like, how do you get back to, you have the team of mutants and they're, you know, hated and feared, but they're still fighting for the betterment of mankind and mutant relationships.
Yeah, it's sort of like how the MCU now is got too big and too far away from where it started, that like there is no going back now. There's like a, you know, there's a celestial apparently who's just sort of half sticking out of the ocean on the planet now. Like,
What?
how do
Yeah.
people sort of go about their daily lives when stuff like that is?
When did that happen?
That was in
That was the
the
Eternals.
Eternals, yeah.
Of course
Yeah.
it was.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, you think it sounds terrible? Watch the 2.5 hour long film. They
Oh.
don't explain it in a satisfactory manner at all.
Well, mind you, for those who do not know what the Celestials are, they're basically space gods.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So they're just part of a space god, just hanging out in the ocean.
And they pretty much just ignored it since then as well. Like, it's never come up
They
again.
never talk about it.
Jesus Christ.
But didn't they do that in the Avengers? Like, wasn't Avengers Mountain like a fucking celestial that's buried under the ground?
Yeah,
And they're like,
that
yeah,
was a
that's...
weird run as well. But that was,
You
at
know,
least that was in like the Arctic or Antarctic, so
Yeah.
it wasn't like,
yeah,
you know,
it's not as obvious.
yeah.
I will say that it's so funny to me that the Avengers are kind of like the quintessential MCU characters, but like I feel like since the early 2000s, there's not been a single decent Avengers run. Like, I really do
Oh,
think like
man,
the
the
last
Hickman.
Avengers run that I actually liked was the Hickman run. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was like 2010s.
Yeah.
So it's been a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
Because he was like running Avengers, Illuminati, and Secret Avengers. No. Secret Avengers was the Illuminati run. And he was doing Hickman stuff with it in a storyline that I'm still not, you know, totally sure what was happening, which is another great calling card to Hickman. I saw people saying like, "Oh, they should adapt that storyline for the MCU." Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I
You know,
loved
we had
it, but I don't think it's, yeah, I don't think you're putting that on the big screen.
no, it'd be a lot. Because like, what was it? There was the two those two gods that they created, like Ex Nihilo and Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
They went nowhere, and then he had like,
Yep.
there were so many weird characters he created for it, and they were enjoyable, but like at the end of the day, like kind of forgettable.
Yeah. None of them
Cannonball,
have stuck
Cannonball
around.
got promoted from an X-Men to a New Mutant to a member of the Avengers.
And what
Didn't
happened? Look at him
Cannonball-
now.
He got promoted to the Shia Imperial Guard as well, didn't he? Like, or
Yeah,
he
'cause
married
his wife
someone
is-
in it.
Yeah. His wife is Thrasher, I think.
Yeah.
He has a kid with her.
Mm-hmm.
So Cannonball's in space now?
No, I
I
think
don't know if he
Cannonball
stays.
got killed on Krakoa.
Oh, so they just brought him back again?
They haven't brought. I don't know if they brought him back yet.
Oh,
But-
he's the one they fucking forgot about?
I thought Cannonball was an Eternal anyway, so.
Yeah.
But
What?
yeah, I'm not
But
that.
did they not? Was that one of those things where like, yeah, Cannonball's an Eternal, and then later on they're like, is he?
I don't know. They seem like that seems like something that got walked back because that's the first
Yeah.
I've heard of Cannonball being an Eternal. Why would you want to be an Eternal? They're the most boring characters. It was like when they made that Inhumans TV show that didn't go anywhere. Like
Yeah.
Marvel just decided we're gonna make a property out of this. We better push them in the books. Even though there has been no statistics to say that the books and the movies have any correlation with each other.
Well, part of the problem with the
Frustrating.
Inhumans TV show was that they were like, we want to make an Inhumans TV show, but we don't want to spend any money.
Don't want to spend a lot of money. That Medusa hair was brutal.
Yeah. Can we make a TV show for free, please? And then they're like,
So-
turns out with all the CGI we use, no.
Just to
Can't be
correct
done.
myself, it was an Eternal. It was an external that Cannonball was.
Okay.
Who's,
I have no idea
um,
what that is.
apparently externals are a loose knit group of 9, possibly 10 mutants of an immortal subspecies of mutants that not only share immortality but a connection to each other that separates them from other immortals.
I love when people forget shit like that. Can I tell you 2 other instances of like characters having these things that people just never acknowledge or like will speak about again?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Chamber from Generation X is apparently related to Apocalypse.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. They did a storyline
Yeah.
where after he lost his powers and was basically on like life support all the time because, you know, when his powers manifested, he blew his chest and his face off.
Mm-hmm.
The Clan Akaba like cult found him and like did a blood transfusion with Apocalypse. And there was a period of time where Chamber was walking around with gray skin and blue lips like Apocalypse.
Like he got got his face back and they made him like Apocalypse, and then guess what they did with that?
Nothing.
Nothing.
They put him on the new what were they called? New Warriors in the Dark Reign storyline in a book that was inconsequential because the entire team lineup were mutant characters who had lost their powers and were fighting with gadgets.
But like a storyline like that, you feel like, oh, this obviously this is going somewhere. They're not gonna turn somebody into Apocalypse just for the fucking fun of it. Like there's gotta be no. They were like, here's Apocalypse, now it's Chamber.
And they turned him back to normal in like a really weird way too. So there was this like kind of like an age of apocalypse-esque period for the X-Men in the 2010s as well, where like there was like this alternate world that like took over the main world for a period of time, and when it reset, he just had his powers back and he looked just like he did in the 90s. So he like gray skin and blue lips were gone, but he had his powers, aka constantly looking like he's on fire.
Yeah, always in extreme amounts of pain.
Yeah. Good deal on that one. And the
Yeah.
second one is that Jamie Madrox isn't a mutant, that he's a changeling, which was revealed in Peter David's X Factor run, because like when they first introduced the character in like fucking Fantastic Four in the 60s, when Madrox was born, when the doctors like smacked him on the ass, he duplicated, and mutant powers don't manifest until you're a teenager. So that was Peter David like bringing in that bit of lore from his introduction and going like, well, you're not technically a mutant, you're something else. So that never went anywhere.
Right, but also like, what else can they do with that?
I mean, they could have done some stuff with it, for God's sake. I mean, like he was on Krakoa, and the whole point of the Krakoan gates were they only work if you're a mutant. Like you should have had that Kitty Pryde problem where Kitty wasn't able to enter in the gates of Krakoa for the longest time.
Why couldn't she go in?
It was like a mental block or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Marauders run, but I can't tell you too much about it. It was one of those books that it was like kind of like cotton candy, where it's like, oh, this is fun, but I don't know if there's any substance here to enjoy, which is how I feel about many books that Jerry Duggan writes.
Right.
Which again, I'm not saying it needs to be a massive epic or anything. It just needs to be kind of memorable for one reason or another.
Right.
So with that in mind, there are like 3 new X-Men books coming out in the summer after the Krakoa stuff like resolves itself. And they're interesting lineups and creative teams. And there's the promise of some more books coming out.
Do you have the 3 main books in the lineups there?
So we've got the Uncanny X-Men, we've got just the plain X-Men, I guess, and then
regular X-Men.
The exceptional X-Men.
Imagine being just regular X-Men, and then right beside you are the exceptional X-Men.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit.
Yeah, I want to be exceptional. It's not fair.
All right, so the regular X-Men looks like it's the main book, and it's going to be written by Jed MacKay and art with Ryan Stegman. It comes out in July. So this is the team of Cyclops, Beast, Magneto, Psylocke, Kid Omega, Temper, who used to be called Oya, Magic, and Juggernaut. And they will be based out of Alaska.
Of course.
The other team of activity, Alaska.
Yeah, yes. Famous X-Men stronghold, Alaska.
Yeah.
It does seem like it's going to be a Cyclops-focused book, and that's why they went with Alaska.
Yeah, it's just from his fucking house.
Yeah. The lineup's not bad. It looks like Magneto's taking on more of an Xavier role in the art that they showed for it. Psylocke looks like it's her old body still, and she didn't go back into Quanon's body. I'm so thrown off whenever they throw Juggernaut onto these mutant teams, considering he's not a mutant.
Yeah.
He's a guy who has a magic crystal embedded in his chest. Like a troll.
But also, like, it's one of those things where, I mean, this could be a whole episode on its own, but like Magneto and Juggernaut, you're like, why make them X-Men? Like, I get the Magneto one is you probably have a better shout out for, but like, it's like, why would you turn a guy like Juggernaut fierce? Like, why would you do that? What's seems the potential? Like what they're doing is we can't get Colossus, so here's Juggernaut. You know?
Yeah. It looks like it's mainly just based off the art of looking like Magneto taking on that Xavier kind of role. It looks like this is the team that's going to be dealing with whatever happens to Xavier at the end of the Krakoan art. I don't know if he's going to die or what, but it does seem like, you know, maybe Juggernaut there to honor his former brother's like memory or something.
By fighting
for the mutant cause
for him,
like his brother would have wanted.
But he's not a mutant.
No, he's not. He's just a dude with a crystal embedded in his chest.
Right. He's just some fucking guy, you know, who didn't like his brother.
No. But then they had that shared memory where it was revealed that Xavier was also abused by his dad.
Oh, well, that's fair enough then.
Yeah, and then they bonded over that. The next book that's going to be coming out in August is Uncanny X-Men. It'll be written by Gail Simone with art by David Marquez. And this team lineup is Rogue, Gambit, Nightcrawler, Jubilee, and Wolverine. And they'll be based out of New Orleans by the looks of it.
So, you know, some real Gambit shenanigans on that book.
Yeah, they did this thing. Gambit had a solo run a couple of years ago, again in the 2010s, where he was named like the King of Thieves and is like over the Thieves Guild. I kind of wonder if they're going to go back to that.
Or are they going to ignore it completely?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like being there would be a reason to do it. But again, Dylan, we talked about this outside of this. You have a more positive opinion about Gail Simone's work than I do necessarily.
Yes, I do. Yeah, out of the books that were revealed, this one seemed the most interesting to me, just because of how much Gail Simone does not like Gambit, and now she's writing Gambit. Like, she's such a troll, where she would absolutely do a years and years long campaign about hating Gambit just to end up writing him. Like, she would absolutely do that, you know.
Yeah, like I told you, be prepared for Gambit to look like the worst human being possible. Because that's how she treated Green Arrow, because she also hated Green Arrow.
But then again, though, like Gambit, historically, you know, they turned him into a bit of a lovable scamp, but like, you know, he is kind of a criminal, so
I do love the lovable scamp aspect of him, though. I have like these collections of like his miniseries and stuff from the 90s. And I remember in one of them, something got sent to Rogue. Like it looked like it was, it was like I think a video of him cheating on her. So he was like trying to sneak into her room to steal it back, and he was like coming across Emma Frost, and he was like, "Uh-oh, she's gonna read my mind and know what I'm up to." So he just started apparently thinking of like the lewdest things possible, and she called him disgusting and walked away so he could like freely pass through the room.
But if it works, it works.
It works. It works.
You know what I mean? I also like the lovable scamp aspect of Gambit. I have a feeling if they have Gambit and Rogue together, I feel like that's probably a good recipe.
They are still married, I believe.
Yeah, so I don't think they're gonna go too, too crazy with it. I think they're still gonna. I don't think she's gonna do too badly with my boy Gambit. Is what I want to say here.
John, you have any thoughts on either of those X-Men books?
I'm sort of hopeful for both of them. Like the one that sort of intrigues me the most is the one the sort of plain X-Men book with Magneto and Juggernaut on the team, because that team really kind of reminds me of when we picked our own X-Men teams. Because like a lot of the characters in that feel like characters we probably would have picked. So
I do like that lineup.
Yeah,
it's also a
pretty
really
badass.
good way to promote one of our older episodes.
Indeed, yeah. Go back and listen to that.
You can't, because that one never came out.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh, we
didn't
well,
come out.
You can just imagine how great our teams were then.
Pretend.
We'll create it. We'll do it again.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, cut this bit out there.
Yeah.
Wait till we make it again, and then come back.
And edit it.
Yes, we will make an episode in the future where we make our own X-Men teams, and then come back to listen to this one, and this episode will make so much more sense.
I saw some people criticizing the Uncanny X-Men lineup because they felt it was too 90s with Rogue, Gambit, Jubilee, and Wolverine on the same book, and that X-Men 97 cartoon series coming out.
Mm-hmm.
But also, don't you think that maybe that's part of it?
Oh,
I am
100%.
really kind of in love with the 90s nostalgia going on at the moment, so I'm not going to complain.
No.
So the third
I've been
book,
rewatching some of the old X-Men episodes.
Does it hold up?
It's hilarious how cheesy it is. Like Storm is constantly like, by the power of the Arctic winds, I command you to stop, and stuff like
Yeah.
this. It's like, oh my god, it's hilarious. And everyone's like shouting Gene like every 5 seconds.
Wolverine.
Do you know what?
Scout.
Do you know what the
It's
two
a thing
things
of
I
beauty.
remember the most of that cartoon are? Two things I
What?
remember the most of. Number one, every time Jean Grey used her powers, her head hurt.
Yes.
Like every single time she did anything, she would like collapse and hold her head. And then the other thing is Bishop like falling backwards through like a wormhole. Like every time. Oh, and I also remember one episode where like a Cable turned up and he's like, I gotta
Yeah.
save my future from apocalypse. So he turns up and does something and then goes back to his future, and it's even worse.
Yeah.
He's like, no! And then that's how it ends.
Yep. The third book that's been announced is Exceptional X-Men, which comes out in September. It's written by Eve Ewing with art by Carmen Carnero. And this book is Kitty Pryde, Emma Frost, with two new mutants, Bronze, Axo, and Melee, who are going to be trained by Kitty and Emma. And this is based out of Kitty's hometown in Chicago. And this is the book that seems the most likely to fail for me.
Yeah.
Why? Why could it ever fail? Because they're not in Alaska?
No, it's just it's when more than 50% of the book are these unproven characters. I think they're really leaning on people like who had fond feelings for the Emma Frost Kitty Pryde pairing from the Marauders book that Jerry Duggan was writing.
Right. Like you think maybe this is them putting a lot of faith in these two characters who they're like, well, we can play off that good faith with these new characters, and hopefully nobody will notice. That kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and it's also like there are it always feels silly when they introduce new like young mutant characters, considering how many generations of new young mutant characters get introduced and then abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like literally, New Mutants is the oldest one, and then you have what Generation X and New X-Men and Young X-Men, and they introduce all of these characters and nothing ever happens with them.
I mean, we were literally talking about Chamber.
Yeah.
And what the fuck happened to Chamber? You know what I mean? Like there were so many of these groups. Cannonball, like fucking who cares, right? They introduce new characters like every 5-10 years, and then they use them for a little bit, and then out the door, and then they come up with new characters. And you're like, well, what about the old ones? Like the thing about the Krakoan era was, to me, I thought the idea of like a lot of the comics continuity was they can kill off characters they don't need to make room for new characters, and then in Krakoa they were like, fuck it, bring them all back, which is problematic because then they're all back. Then you either have to kill them again or just ignore them. Like that's a tricky thing to do. Then now you have like a crazy surplus of characters, and to start introducing more new ones then brings up the question like, well, then why didn't you use this guy, or why didn't you use that guy? Like I don't know what the two new X-Men are in this Emma Frost book, but then whatever powers they have, somebody will like, well, why didn't they use this guy who does the same thing? You know,
Yeah.
Which seems problematic to me.
Well,
you know?
and so there are other books coming out too. They just haven't announced the creative teams or who the lineup are for the team books. But the other books announced are Phoenix, X Factor, Storm, X Force, Wolverine, and I don't know if it's NYX or Nyx.
Oh, they
But
did
those
that
are
before, didn't they?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I remember if it was NYX or Nyx, the curse of it being a written thing, and I don't get to hear someone actually say it.
Yeah. If anybody knows how it's pronounced, please let us know, and we will definitely pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But tell us how it's pronounced, but write it down.
So yeah, no. So that's the new X-Men stuff coming out. There are some characters that are like missing that a lot of people are pointing out. Like Colossus has had a pretty big important thing going on in the Krakoa era. And then you also have like X-23 is nowhere to be seen here, and she's been a big character for the last like 10, 15, 20 years. I'm curious, like, if they're going full like 90s kind of vibe for stuff, if we're gonna get like that Peter David, Havoc, multiple man, strong guy, X Factor team, and if we're gonna get like Cable, Warpath, Richter and stuff, and X Force.
I mean, maybe the Cable part.
Mm.
You know, I don't think anybody's clamoring for more Cable or more Richter at the moment. You know, are they?
No, I understand what you're saying. I don't necessarily think a lot of characters are super high in demand at the moment. The X world is so weird because it always feels so disconnected from the rest of Marvel. Like always. And anytime they bring them together, whether it was like A versus X or X-Men versus Inhumans or whatever, it just feels wrong.
But isn't this Jed McKay guy the current writer of Avengers as well? So
Yeah.
maybe if he's writing both that and the plain X-Men book, then I don't know, room for a crossover, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be continuing to write the Avengers book because a lot of people are saying like the Avengers book just feels inconsequential. And that's kind of what I was going back to when I was saying like there doesn't feel like there has been a good Avengers run since Hickman, because it feels like it's the book that Marvel is constantly playing it safe with. And the lineups have always been garbage. It's always like the characters that you would expect, which I am a big fan of team books with really weird fucking lineups. I love it. I loved the 90s Avengers that had like Black Knight and Hercules and Cersei and stuff. And I liked the Justice League International team for how weird it was. But I get that, like, when you have a team book for like Justice League or like the Avengers, you want the lineup to be like Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, etc.
Mm.
But that was the thing.
Boring though.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I kind of always liked about X-Men is that X-Men lineups are always a little different and a little weird.
Right.
Like you'd have like some of your regulars, and then they throw in somebody fucking weird. Like in this X-Men run that Jed McKay's doing, Oya, who was a character from, she was one of the rays of light from Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she was one of the exiles in the Sabretooth miniseries.
Yeah, she's deeply damaged psychologically, isn't she?
And you know who's
what,
also
so
missing from
is-
these X-Men lineups?
Who's that?
Iceman.
Ugh.
Wonder why they're not using Iceman.
Because Oya can do ice powers and fire powers. So there's no need.
It is quite telling that for the last 2 years, the character of Beast has been like one of the big villains of the X-Men. And then now that they're relaunching the X-Men, bam, straight away, one of the on the
Well,
big team, it's Beast. I know it's technically a different Beast, but I'm like,
yeah, it's getting fixed.
But the idea of this guy who's been the big bad for so long has still got way more trust and ability and storyline potential than Iceman, who is still regulated to one of the most boring X-Men. You know what I mean? Like I think it says a lot.
Yeah.
Again, you look at all the guys that are being used. It's Angel and Iceman that aren't anywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why I feel if they do an X-Force, you'll see Angel as Archangel again.
Oh, good. That's what he needs.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to that.
Yeah. Maybe him and Chamber could team up.
I'm a big Chamber fan, so
I'd like him to come because he was interesting. You know.
Yeah, he had weird powers.
Yeah, there was I felt like there was stuff they could do with him, but they just didn't know what that stuff was.
Yeah. Well, and the Generation X book, in my opinion, is a gem. I mean, I loved that series.
I also liked
because
it.
it was great, and you had like the whole thing of like being, they're these are the students that are getting taught, and like you get Emma Frost, who at that point was still better known as a villain, and you get Banshee, who has always been like kind of criminally underused.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you get Xavier and Magneto or Cyclops or Storm or whatever. You have these new weird characters with characters you would not expect as their mentors.
What I liked about those guys was they were weird. There was a lot of weird stuff going on.
Well, yeah, you had Skin, who had like the Mr. Fantastic powers, but his skin was constantly sagging and gray.
Yeah, and you had like the whole Monet thing.
Yeah, the Monet and Penance.
Yeah, which is super interesting.
You had Husk, who is Cannonball's little sister, and her powers are kind of gross because she rips her skin off to reveal new powers.
Yeah.
Like you said, I love 90s nostalgia when it comes to comics. I think it's fucking fun.
Where's their fucking TV show?
They tried to make a Generation X TV show.
Did they?
Yeah. They did.
Is there a pilot of that? Can we do a watch along for that?
Yeah, we should absolutely do a watch along of the Generation X show. There was some interesting stuff that happened in it.
Oh, I bet interesting is the correct word.
Chamber was not in it because the special effects could not be used. They did not have the ability to have a guy whose torso and face was constantly this like plasma energy that looked like fire.
The live action one.
Yeah. Do you remember it, John?
I'm pretty sure I remember my dad taking us to the local video shop, and I saw it was like Generation X, and then it had some sort of connection to the X-Men. I was like, oh, cool, yeah, let's get this then. Let's watch this. And it being really bad, and we've been like, what the hell? What the hell has this got to do with the X-Men?
Yeah, Generation X, a pilot that aired on February 20th, 1996. I watched this when it aired. I remember sitting in my sister's room watching it. Emma Frost, Banshee, Monet, Jubilee, Mondo, who I thought was a villain in the Generation X comic, Skin, and then these two characters they made up because they couldn't They didn't have the ability to do the special effects for Husk and Chamber, so instead you get Buff and Refrax.
Okay, here's the deal. Let's for now, let's not say anything more about this in case we revisit this topic in the future, which I think we might.
Yeah.
We'll keep the rest of the information about the Generation X television show pilot a secret for now.
Yes. I will tell you
because
though, the villain is played by Matt Frewer, who is one of my favorite character actors.
Okay.
He was
What's he done?
Max Headroom. He was Max Headroom.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that that might be watch along worthy. I think it was a pilot for a show. I don't think it was that long.
Yeah, like half an hour.
Let me see if it's on YouTube. It has to be on
Running
YouTube.
time 87 minutes apparently.
What?
Hour 28.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh, I just saw the costumes. They look just as good as I'd hoped.
Don't spoil it for yourself. I'm not gonna look up any of this. I'm gonna wait till we do this, and see it all new for the first time.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It is an hour 28 long.
Okay, so this is a possibility.
Yes. Oh, we
Okay.
can watch a version that has the commercials included if you want to go that far with it.
I mean, I don't want to make it too long. How long is
Like about 2 hours clean on that point.
2 hour long? Do you want to do a 2 hour long show?
I mean, here's the thing. When we did Japanese Spider-Man, it was the easiest editing I ever had to do because I didn't edit a goddamn thing.
You just kind of let it run because we're just watching the show.
Because you're watching it. But
Um,
no, that's really funny to me. I'm so glad we unlocked that memory of watching that and that John was also aware of it, so I'm not insane.
Okay.
And Dylan, you could critique Banshee's Irish accent. I don't know if the actor actually was Irish or not.
I'm going to hazard a guess and say no.
Probably not. Probably not.
I look forward to this. And that's something for everybody else to look forward to as well. Anybody listening to this, that's like the Japanese Spider-Man episode was so much fun. Why can't they do another watch along? Well, you guys are in luck, motherfuckers. You're about to get the Generation X pilot
TV show.
Yeah, where we critique it. You know.
I again couldn't get Husk and Chamber. We got Buff and Refrax.
I didn't even want to know what the fuck their superpowers are. Don't
you
tell
will be
me.
underwhelmed.
Don't tell me a goddamn thing. You know.
I wouldn't dare to.
Good.
So yeah, that's kind of what's going on in the X-Men world. But so John, is the Red Goblin the only trade you picked up recently?
Well, after this I've got the most recent Carnage series as well lined up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You don't sound as enthused.
Well, I don't know. There's been some Carnage comics over the last 10 years or so which have been pretty good. There's been some which have been pretty bad. So hopefully this falls into the latter column, but we'll see, I guess.
Fair enough. So I have a poll, and I have it in front of me to tell you what series I've been reading. So I already mentioned Hickman's Gods, and I mentioned Batman. So the other books I'm reading are Action Comics, Batman and Superman World's Finest, Cable, Detective Comics, Green Arrow, Kneel Before Zod, Nightwing, Superman, X-Force, Star Trek, and Star Trek Defiant.
So whenabouts are these Star Trek books set then? Are they tying into the old series, or?
So these take place after Voyager, because the crew on both books are sort of an amalgamation of old past characters. So in the Star Trek book, the captain is Captain Sisko from Deep Space Nine, but his chief engineer is Scotty from the classic Enterprise crew. But it's like, he's an older man, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He's like medical officers, Dr. Crusher, Tom Paris is his pilot from Voyager. So it's kind of a mix of everything. And then Spock is a part of the crew on Star Trek Defiant, which is Worf as the captain. So those are from IDW, and IDW is kind of like the imprint for like tie-in or intellectual property books, because they also for the longest time were doing like G.I. Joe and Transformers and stuff.
Didn't they do that He-Man mixed with like the DC universe as well?
Yeah, they also did DC does a lot of those pairings. They did a DC and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if I'm not mistaken, or was it at least Batman and Ninja Turtles. And currently there is a Godzilla versus King Kong and Justice League book that's been coming out. So yeah, they do. DC will do a lot of weird tie-ins.
How Godzilla versus King Kong and the Justice League?
Yeah, I don't think the Justice League have a side per se. I think they're just like doing damage control.
Plus. Oh, so Godzilla versus King Kong brackets plus the Justice League will also be there, closed brackets.
Yeah, it's not like they've decided to form a team with King Kong.
Yeah, right. Okay, that because I'm like, God, Godzilla has to do this, fight all of those guys himself. That's tough, man.
Yeah.
How's he gonna? How's he gonna beat the Flash?
That's true. How is he gonna beat the Flash?
Why didn't John? Whenever we were coming up with how do we kill the Flash, why didn't we just write Godzilla eats him?
Yeah.
That would have been so much easier.
I also have a couple of trades. I have a lot of backlog on trades to read, but the two that are on the top of the backlog is Antioch, which is a series that was made by Patrick Kindlon and Marco Ferrari from Image Comics, and the Epic Collection Ghost Rider Danny Ketch collection thing that was put together by Marvel, which is the 90s Howard Mackie run on Ghost Rider.
I'm a big fan of the Epic collections.
You're not, or you are?
I am. Yeah. I've collected a absolute shit ton of them.
They're cheaper than the DC ones they put out, because I feel like the DC ones are always like $100. So these are the Marvel ones are cheaper. I was gonna ask, because you read these collections, do you read like omnibus collections that are like the whole big thing?
Not so much. I only have like the X-Men ones, the first 3 of those. But like because I prefer having like the trade paperbacks rather than the hardcovers.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, because it's a bitch to read because they're so heavy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a lot easier to do the trades, although I guess probably more expensive in the long run. But hey ho.
Yeah, exactly. That's the convenience tax.
Yeah.
I have the Starman omnibus, like I think it's 5 or 6, I can't remember. So that's been on the to-do list to read, because the longest time I could not find the third one, because like they did large printings of the first and the second one, and then they didn't do as many for 3, 4, and 5. And I will tell you, it was expensive, because when I found one, I had to pay a lot for it.
Yeah, I just had something similar with the X-Men Epic Collection for Bishop's Crossing, where I just had to pay over the odds for it, because it's like, even though it came out like 2 years ago, it's already out of print and really hard to find. So it's a bit of a bummer, but at least I've got it now.
Yes. I'm curious to tell you, the third Starman omnibus cost me $250.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was literally, I've not seen one since, and it was in really good condition. And it was like, I either get this or I never finish reading this run.
Well, hopefully it's worth every penny.
I mean, it is one of those acclaimed series that, we kind of talked about this previously, that because of things like Death of Superman and the other books in the 90s that people just bought hundreds and thousands of copies of because they thought that like they're going to be worth something one day, DC had the money to let James Robinson write Starman, because it is one of those amazing books that, to be frank, I'm kind of surprised it wasn't a Vertigo book. Like, that's just kind of the vibe it had. it was a superhero book, but it didn't feel connected or in the same environment as the other superhero books.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of what I've been reading. I will tell you though that I am so close to just dropping Detective Comics, which I found out is a very divisive thing to say.
Really?
That storyline that they have has been going on forever.
Yeah, you
And
mentioned it before.
oh my god, it's never ending. Batman's on a spirit quest in the fucking desert. The villain has already changed, I think, twice now. Gotham is a dystopia where no one remembers Batman, but Batgirl's still running around and Catwoman still is pining for him because of the reality engine that's underground making people forget things.
Ay.
I saw the solicitations for June, and it is still referencing these villains. I'm gonna have to drop it, and that breaks my heart. I just can't keep reading it.
Talked about comics. I haven't been reading anything recently. I haven't had the money for it. I like buying the trade paperbacks like John does. I haven't had the money for anything. So maybe in a couple of weeks' time, I might have some money available for something to purchase. We'll see. Maybe if anybody out there can recommend some good trade paperbacks for me to read that I could read and talk about in the show in the future, we could maybe do that. Who knows? You know.
Well, you are. So Dylan, aren't you? You're saving money because you're coming to America soon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Although by the time this episode goes out, will I be in America?
It might be the week after you have gone to America, if I'm
Okay.
doing the mental math correctly.
Okay. I mean, you can put this one up while I'm away in America, right?
Sure. It might be.
Does-
It might go up when you come back. So, like, to let you know, this week Iceman comes out, and next week The Flash comes out. So it'd be the week after that. So, actually, yeah, no, I think this will come out while you're in America.
Okay. Good. So nobody bother me while I'm there. Yes, that's why I'm saving money. But the reasons for why I'm in America will be kept secret for now.
Makes you sound like a drug smuggler.
Look, I can neither confirm nor deny the smuggling abilities of myself and my cohorts that will also be going to America. But yes, basically, when in a couple of weeks' time, I'll have some more money free, and we'll hopefully be able to buy some. I haven't bought new comics in a while, so I'd like to go and buy some soon. So feel free to leave comments if you wish about comics you think I might like, and I'll ignore them and buy whatever I want because that's
Yeah,
what
if
I
you're a
do.
listener from Poland, we want to hear what you think.
I only want to hear what the guy from Poland has to say.
Only you.
Yeah.
If the person from Rio de Janeiro or Brussels or there's someone else in a weird
There's
part of the
Holland
world
as
that I would
well,
not
wasn't
expect.
it?
Holland, yes. If you want to chime in, Dylan still won't listen to your recommendation, but
Probably not.
you'll feel included.
Actually, kind of interested with the Rio de Janeiro one.
Yeah, what's going on in Brazil?
Yeah, that's a maybe. If you want to write in, I'll maybe read that.
But yeah, no, if you're watching this on YouTube, look us up on Spotify or Samsung, or there's some other places where we are. Just Google our name and you'll find us. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, watch us on YouTube. You know, listen to us twice. We need it.
Yeah. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. So next week we're going to be doing a kind of a classic thing we've not done in this new edition, where we're going to assemble a team of characters, a team of villains, as we put together. Go ahead.
We're not going to assemble a team of X-Men like we threatened to do earlier in this show.
But we will be assembling a lineup of these Sinister Six Spider-Man villains who are all about ending the life and times of that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So it'll be a good time.
Something to look forward to.
Specifically, I'm going to assemble a team that's designed to take down Japanese Spider-Man, though.
Oh.
You can't do it though. He's
too powerful.
He's got the space robot.
Yeah.
Yep. He's got the leopard on.
How could you beat space robot?
Yeah, and he also climbs up and down that one particular building. That's his source of power is that one building.
Just stay away from that building.
Stay away from that building.
Seems
But if
like
the
a
goal is to
smart
kill
thing
him,
to
we
do.
got to get to that building because that's where he's going to be hiding.
And then Godzilla eats him.
And Godzilla eats him. I mean, that's the perfect enemy for Japanese Spider-Man.
That's how you kill him. Just Godzilla eats everything.
Mm-hmm. And maybe King Kong and the Justice League will be there.
They're just watching though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just taking in the sights.
Yeah, it's really weird.
But until next time, I'm Corey, and this has been John and Dylan, or Jolin, if we want to combine your names.
That's what we call ourselves on the streets.
Yeah, on the streets.
Mhm.
Your street gang.
That's our rap name when we make
Ooh,
a
shit.
rap album. You know.
I always hear muggings are very common in the UK. Is that true? Do you guys get mugged a lot?
Oh, dude, every day.
That's why you formed Jolin.
Yeah, now we're the ones doing the mugging.
Yeah.
Give me $5.
Very rarely, whenever we ask people for $5 in the UK, do they give us $5
That's because you don't have guns. You gotta have a gun.
or dollars.
Or dollars. That's true. That's true. All right.
That was my point, but whatever.
Oh well. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Tell Marvel about the Armless Tiger Man show as well, by the way.